let me start this off by just giving a shout out to PlayStation 4. Y'all had a good run, but by the time NBA 2K20 comes out, I think it's about to be just about a wrap for that console. As far as like, are you some unknown park nigga that was playing, or are you somebody that was playing on YouTube? If y'all really want the truth, you might not remember it. The only reason PS4 became the main console for NBA 2K was because it came out before the Xbox One. Very shortly, maybe a month or maybe two before it, but it came out first, and that's why everybody was on PS4, because they wanted to drop content first. I still remember seeing Chris Smooth's thumbnail. He dropped like the first PS4 next gen 2K video. I remember this shit, man, but that's really, in my opinion, the only reason PS4 took a step ahead. And now in NBA 2K20, will y'all be on PS4 or will y'all be on Xbox? Let me know in the comment section. I think I'm finally going to switch back to Xbox. And when I did start on Xbox and I originally played this great game that you see before you, this is happiness. When I watch footage of this game, I just feel content in my heart, because I'm going to take the easiest shots possible until he cools off, which should be soon. Apparently not. He definitely won't stop, can't stop, won't stop. Gerald Green for three. This is when I was happy as a human being. I'm sure some of you should feel this way too. NBA 2K13 is without a doubt top tier MyTeam in every single way possible. This, I think, in my opinion, is such a good mode for its vintage nature. Alright, so there's so much about the mode that was it was amateur. Alright, it was before they got the porn deal. Alright, they were still shooting amateur scenes, and it's when they were doing their best work.
What?
That was wild. I don't even know if I can say that. It was just very memorable in the fact that it was simple. There was Michael, Larry, and Magic as your rewards for completing the top 3 seeds, and there was only like 4 packs. There was the bronze, silver, and gold pack with the purple pack. Shout out Red Wolf. Yo, shout out, matter of fact, the niggas that I don't even need to follow up to say why I just shouted out Red Wolf. Y'all know what it is, bro. 1 purple, 2 gold after you win a game of Road to the Playoffs. Y'all know what the fuck. Matter of fact, after you win 2 games of Road to the Playoffs in a row, that was the method. I don't know if it really worked, but I would do it, and I'm here to say I had one of the most extensive legend collections of NBA 2K13. But that's what makes it so amateur, that we really thought that was the shit. Like, that was the way to get gold legend players. And everything, when I think back to my team of that day, everything was perfect. All that we needed to take out was the 1-3-1 zone. We needed to add repeatable rewards, and if it had an auction house at that time. I cannot see any way that mode could be even better if we took all those things out. And the Euro step 3-pointer, because once you got Larry Bird, oh my fucking god, you couldn't stop it. It was just expect the 40-50 piece, and if they see it going one time, they're gonna keep doing it. 2K14 was such a transition year. That's the best word to describe it, because not only it's the first time that we had 2 versions of the mode. We had the regular gen version, or the current gen version, and the next gen version, because that's when next gen dropped within months of the game releasing. And I didn't play 2K14 current gen much after next gen dropped, but I was told that it was actually quite a fun mode. I remember like there was a Sapphire Dr. J card that everybody fucking loved. It just seemed like it still held that kind of vintage essence of the mode. The most influential things I can remember from that year of the mode, though, was it started expansion of ideas, specifically with packs, right? So that's the first time we saw Emerald packs, for example, which became Emerald packs. When you think about it, Emeralds evolved because they were meant to be the first ideas or concepts of a moments card. A player just had a really good game, or he's been playing well, so let's drop a new card with upgraded stats, right? So Emeralds expanded into dynamic cards in 2K16, but they also expanded into what we now know as moments cards. Emeralds were huge for the mode of MyTeam. It's probably the most pivotal pack type that ever has dropped, because after this in 2K15 it actually became like really good moments cards. Like, remember there was the Emerald Westbrook, the Emerald Hassan Whiteside when he had his first Jesus, do y'all remember that? His I'm just trying to get my 2K stats up game. I remember that fucking card, man. But that's what Emeralds did. And now in 2K19, that has become heat check cards. So shout out to Emeralds. That's an OG pack, OG card type, great concept. Shout out to 2K when they came up with that, because now look what it is. Also, keeping in mind, this is when tournaments first started. There's the Sapphire Scottie Pippen tournament that to this day I still get upset about. I think that's one of the first times 2K ever pushed me to the point of almost crying. I didn't cry, but I was emotional as fuck. And on top of all of that, that was when locker codes first got introduced for the first time. Do y'all remember Ruby Iguodala? Right? And I think he had to release it, and it was on April's Fool's Day, and like he fake released it the first time and he trolled and then released it. That's another thing. Locker codes got introduced that year. That was the first time we started camping out on people's Twitters to try to make sure that we got the code first. And look what that evolved into in 2K15, you know? And we might as well jump to that because everything about 2K14 is what made 2K15 great. That was the first time, not the first time, that was the best time where 2K took everything that worked in the previous mode and made it greater in the next mode, because since then they've not really capitalized on their momentum of their last modes, in my opinion. Because 2K15, that was the heyday. This is when no matter who you are, if you played MyTeam, if you played My Career, if you played Park, whatever it had to do with 2K, you should have enjoyed this game. This is top tier, up there with 2K 13 easily, because of how good the game was all around. 2K15 MyTeam, even the soundtrack. After years of asking, we finally got the auction house that we've been craving for this entire time. The ability to trade cards in some way, shape, or form and not have to open all those packs and hope that we get the player we're looking for. No, we can just go buy that motherfucker right now because we feel like it. Road to the playoffs, it was fun. However, you could not repeat it. If it could be repeatable and you could get more rewards, that would have been the greatest road to the playoffs of all time. Shout out the young god Bruno Caboclo, Onyx Andre Miller, Onyx Hito Turgaloo.
Hito into Nelson. Jameer looks at the clock, rising for three. He drills it! Magic win!
And like I said, in 2K14 with the locker codes beginning, this is when it was its heyday. Locker codes were the shit. You had to have at least one on your team. This is when people were, that you should see, I wish I could go back and check the replies of some of the tweets of Ronnie just to see the hate and the disgust and just the horrible side of human beings when they missed the code because they couldn't type it in fast enough. It was savage, man. It was savage, but at the same time, I loved it. I appreciated it because I got all of them. I really only wanted to have 2 years of the game as top tier years, but it's fair to say that 16 could also be considered a top tier year right under well, with 13 and 15, but I want to personally put it just one shade under. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong in this, in putting 16 under 13 and 15. But 16 was a great year for 2K2 just because it brought back that feeling of retroness that I loved out of 2K13. And it still was a fun game, and the game was evolving at the same time. So this is when Emeralds turned into Dynamics. Dynamic merchanting was a thing. And the cards were just as memorable as 2K15 and 2K13. For example, Amethyst Throwback Thursday Carmelo Anthony was the fucking Egyptian god card of that game for about 2 months straight. He would go for like 500-600K. I remember this. Actually, he almost went for like 750 at some point. I think that's what the first one sold for. Shout out to the retard that bought, I still remember you, bro. You bought Allen Iverson, the Nuggets Amethyst version, the first one that dropped on PS4 for 1 mil buy now. Drop a L in the comments for this nigga because I still remember you. I don't know who you are, but you are out there. So there's those cards. There was the Paul Pierce. Oh my god. If anybody remembers using or playing against that Paul Pierce, he would not miss. He would just shit on you. Dick all on your forehead. He is making green contesteds all day. But that was the entire year. Throwback Thursday Amethyst. Dwight was a god. There were so many cards throughout that year that were great. There was the Throwback Thursday God card, 81 point Kobe. That year all around from start to finish was just really excellent, and the pacing of cards was excellent because early on we got those cards like Melo and Paul Pierce, and it didn't feel like the mode was left barren or destitute for a while, which is the case for something like 2K18. You know, we were getting rubies as our reward cards up until like December. But sniping was also in its prime, in its heyday in 2K16. Shout out Space Word Bird, bro. That's where I know where he started putting in work in 2K16. People would teach you how to snipe. People would have snipe filter videos. That's when that first originated. And that's when Blacktop came out, our first mode of play outside of tournaments, outside of challenges, outside of road to the playoffs. It was another way to play the game, enjoy the game, and it was a success because it actually allowed us. You remember when a first new card came out? What was the first thing everybody did? Open up Blacktop. Just to either get a gameplay with it or just to see what it felt like if they wanted to use it. Blacktop was it was so simple, but it was a W of a mode. W. NBA 2K17. Now, I playfully call this the beginning of the end, even though 2K17 was still a fun mode. This is an upper tier year of MyTeam, right? However, this is when things, I think, started getting out of hand and when we started seeing the beginning of the trends that we hate today. So let's not talk about the negatives first. Let's talk about the fact that 2K17 had probably the GOAT offline content, let's say, right? So for example, this year is when challenges, this is the peak year of challenges. Challenges have never been greater than when they were in NBA 2K17 because this is when we started getting those moments challenges that were worth like 8,000 plus when a player had a really good game. I remember Clay and Karl Anthony Towns getting a bunch of them. And then that would also cause this player's price to fluctuate on the market, right? So if you were even watching the game and you saw that Westbrook was about to go crazy, you just go buy up like 25 fucking Westbrooks and leave them in your auction house. And guess what happens when that challenge drops? You just made bonk, my nigga. You just made all the MT you needed to make to go upgrade your team. And that's why I remember challenges so playfully in that year because they were consistent. I can remember so many different players that I remember getting to do these things with, and it would make me MT. Also, domination. I cannot remember a year of domination that was better because that year of domination had the best concept and the best rewards because not only could you pick who you wanted, right? Everybody would pick somebody different, but the cards were so memorable. Shout out Amethyst Steve Francis, Amethyst World Be Free, Amethyst Sean Marion. Ugh, that nigga still gives me nightmares. Diamond George Mikan, Diamond Tony Parker, and fuck Diamond Ben Wallace.
To this day! To this day!
To this day, I want nothing to do with that bum ass nigga's existence. He can get away from me. But without a doubt, 2K17, after years like 16 and 13, because 15 was great, but its cards weren't as memorable. 2K17 had memorable cards. You remember those cards from the beginning to the end of the year. Basically, if you've seen the movie Semi-Pro,
Suck my cock! I'll murder your family!
I just want all players from the 70s on my team. I just want my team to be funky. Because now this is when I say we first saw the trend that we now see that we hate. So by the end of 2K17, there were cards like Diamond Mark Jackson, who, by the way, not only should we ask why is there a diamond in front of Mark Jackson's name, this motherfucker could do 360 dunks. I don't know if they gave him all of World Be Free's animations or some shit, but that's when I just saw cards that made me like, what the fuck is this? Like, somebody explain this to me immediately, vociferously, expeditiously. Take a good look at this pudgy individual that you see before you. No, not that one, this one. After literally years of just liking this rotund ass nigga just being a Knicks fan because he got fat, as this nigga has to pause and make some defensive changes because he needs to be able to stop the fat boy. We have these super cards that don't really make sense, but we use the idea that MyTeam is a fantasy mode to justify the fact that we use this concept to use cards like this. But that's when I think this trend started, and I feel like there should be a balance to it because I like the idea of that, but it's too much. It's too much. It's like this is why we can't have nice things, you know? 2K17 to 2K18 was their worst evolution. And for me, what stood out most in that aspect was the transition of Road to Playoffs to Supermax. And Supermax, I remember it actually more fondly now because it actually is better than what we have now in MyTeam Unlimited. But Supermax was not fun, mainly because its design was flawed and the point system was very difficult to work with and unfair at times, which kind of, after having to deal with the cheese of actually beating people and what they were doing, because this is when people started embracing running people out of position and not having anyone on your team that is shorter than 6'6", 6'7", and that's when the MyTeam mode really got to what it is now. This is when those trends really picked up, and now we have the shit show. And the mode as a whole, it just didn't feel very rewarding. Like I had mentioned earlier, it took us up until December to start really getting good content. We were still getting Ruby cards and just scratching the surface of Amethyst cards being the rewards for complete sets. So it felt like the mode was just so slow. It didn't make me want to play it. And I feel like that was rock bottom for MyTeam. Rock, like from SpongeBob, that kind. It was the biggest dead zone that we had ever had in a year. That's when people completely gave up on the mode and stopped playing for months, really. Me included. That's when my love for the mode personally started going down slowly and slowly. And it demanded improvement in 19. I remember being part of this wave of people that just, if 19 ain't it, bro, I'm fucking done. We know that's a lie. We're not done. We're always gonna come back to this bullshit. And that's why I hope that this video can somehow give us some insight as to why things worked over the years, why things didn't work, and what we should aspire to go towards. Because as much as we can recommend to the devs, hey, you should add this for the next year, or fix this, or add these filters, or let us put this on this difficulty, it's what we've been doing, and sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses. So I'm trying to get back to when it hit, what did we do? Why did it hit that time? My nigga, look at the starting lineup. There is, how you expect me to take that on with like a half Ruby, half Amethyst team? You know what I'm saying? He was the nigga that wanted to throw fisticuffs to Chocolate Thunder. That's the only reason I know who he is. It was just a really obscure pick. Let's just call it that. It was an obscure choice of player to give as our final reward for over like 40 hours of, grinding this game. So that's where I'm gonna leave it up to y'all, because this video has stretched way longer than I thought it would have. In the comments below, leave me what you think worked in NBA 2K19 MyTeam. I will try to send this the devs' way and get their eyes on it, just so maybe we can have this push us in the right direction somewhat. So what worked in 19, what didn't work in 19, what worked and didn't work in the years prior, and let's see where this goes, y'all. I'm just here because I want to make MyTeam great again.